Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending in Richers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, welcome back in Richers, Carter Wilcoxon, coming to you from warmish Phoenix, Arizona. It is May, 1st of May, so it's starting to get a little bit warmer out here in Phoenix, and I know that our guest that is on the show today is hoping that it's going to warm up where he's coming in. But before we get to Scott Airey, I want to go ahead and bring in my co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James. Tim, how are you, my man?
Hey man, I'm actually dragging a little bit. I had to do physical labor for 3 days on the farm.
Oh yeah, so that's coming together. But you were working all weekend, huh?
Yeah, I rented a track hoe to do some of the heavy lifting. I put some about 160 foot of pipe in for project, and then it rained, so then we had to go buy a pump to pump the ditch out.
Oh,
it was fun.
Man,
found a lot of snakes pulling out. My dad he worked at the state highway department, so there was in the wintertime people would throw their chains, truck would throw their chains, and he would just pick them up, bring them home. We have just massive piles of chains, so if you ever needed a snow chain, just come on over and we'll make you some.
That's awesome.
We used to do that for people. My dad would make sets of chains for people because he just fixed the broken ones. We'd fix them together and then give people chains.
Was that a pro bono thing? You just doing that just to help people out, or were you trying to make a little money?
No, we just make it for people.
Wow. Always the giver. Always the giver. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So other than that, I brought my guitar instructor came with me, so Jeremiah. So he got a little work in, made a couple hundred bones.
Nice. Get a little live entertainment and got the tip jar out there, so that's good.
Yeah, right when we went into town, we stopped at Nature's Pantry, which is the local health food store. I know the owners there, and we walked in, and Jeremiah was like, "Oh, there's a piano," and I was like, "Well, get over there and play it." So I went and grabbed my guitar, and we did a little 6-song concert, and then we were in a hurry, so when we had to, and they gave us free smoothies for playing, even though we were unannounced players.
Oh, nice. Well, anyway. Yeah, any way you can make a little, extra money and do some entertaining. That's cool. I know you've been learning for 3 years, 2 or 3 years with the guitar now?
Yeah, 3 years. I think that was my first paid gig because I actually got paid a smoothie. But I got a green juice. I got paid in a green juice. So it's compensation. So I guess I had my first paid gig as a musician. Pretty excited.
There you go. Well, hey, in Richards, we really want to thank you for joining us for another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. And I want to go ahead and bring in our guest today, coming in from the great state of the 10,000 lakes, right? Minnesota. Scott Airey of Fiat Wealth Management. Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Happy Monday to you guys. Sounds like you've been busy over the weekend. Back at it here today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an understatement for Tim. He's been busy doing that for a while. And I just got through having the luxury of moving my family about 2 weeks ago, so I'm glad to have that behind me now.
I bet.
Fair.
That's never any fun. Well, Scott, we want to go ahead and jump into it and everything. And interesting little side note. This is actually the second advisor from Fiat Wealth Management we've had on the Health and Wealth Podcast. So this is pretty cool. For us anyway, and we thank you again, Scott, for accepting our invitation.
My pleasure
to be a guest. So have Tim quiet put it on mute, and ask you, Scott, what was it originally? Go back to what your earliest remembering, or if there was an influencer, or there was something about being in the financial services business, on what first brought you moving down that track, and share with us the beginning journey for where you're at today.
Yeah, I think I can boil it straight down to one thing: love. Ultimately, I didn't grow up. I mean, I got to back this story up a little ways, if you're okay with that, to provide some context. It's a fun story. I often tell people it should be a movie or a book or something. Maybe one day I'll get to that. I got into this industry primarily because of love. I didn't grow up here in Minnesota. I'm not from the land of 10,000 lakes. I grew up not north of here, but pretty far east of here in Canada. I grew up in Montreal, is where I'm from originally. And I just jokingly tell people I didn't really speak much French. My parents tell me, like, as a kid, I used to like smack them in the faces when they talked to me in French because I didn't like it or didn't know how to speak it. I don't really remember specifically, but didn't do well with the French language. And I played baseball growing up. So
I saw that.
Yeah, not a prototypical French Canadian. And so at 18, they just kicked me out. And here I am, landed in the United States. But no, I chased the dream to play baseball. And early on, I had no other mission than to try to make $1 million throwing a ball around a field. And that's what brought me to the U.S. originally. I was trying to get drafted. And, you know, like most kids, I went to college to try to accomplish that. And education was kind of secondary in my mind. In all honesty, I was here for one reason, and chased that dream as long and as far as I could until I ultimately got hurt. And who knows if I really had enough to make it to the next level. I have a couple letters and some messages from a few scouts that were interested, but before I got hurt, and you know, that dream kind of fell to the wayside eventually. But at that point, was on to plan B, and so I focused on my education and, you know, tried to get A's and get good grades and all that stuff, and somehow ended up with a master's degree after all of this. And my background's probably a little closer to Tim's field. My master's degree is in kinesiology, and I had an emphasis in biomechanics, and so very heavily focused on just how the human body works. And my mission when I got into education at that time was to just continue playing. Honestly, I just wanted to have fun, and I was around sports and athletics my whole life, and I just assumed that I could continue with success and have some fun, make a little bit of money, and, you know, get on to plan B. When I got done with school, I moved back home to Canada. Was logistically trying to figure out how to get married to my college sweetheart, who's from here in the Twin Cities. And so a few years went by before we ultimately made all that work. I don't know if we have enough time in the podcast to get into all those details, but it was fun, man. Oh, it was a logistic nightmare. It was, you know, just graduated school, had no money and nothing going on. And it was like, are you ready to get married? Am I ready to get married? And do we, you know, jump full into this right away? And it just took a little time for it all to get ironed out. And then ultimately came a bunch of paperwork, right? I had to go through the whole immigration process, which it's not the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it certainly is involved and comes with complications, and paperwork is not my forte. So I'm glad I had a good team around me even then to help me with those things. But what I'm getting at, go ahead.
I went through that, and it's so stupid. Like my wife from Peru, we'd fill out all this stuff and go to these appointments, and like literally a foot of paperwork.
Yeah.
Like a foot of paperwork. And the guy like opens his folder up, and he looks at it for like 5 seconds, and he's like, okay, pretty good. And I'm like, what? There's like,
that's literally what happened to us too. I remember like you had to do interviews. I think there's movies about it that kind of make fun of it, but I remember like putting together like a dossier, if you want to call it that, just a history of my wife and I's, you know, relationship and all the time I spent in the US. And we walked into this interview ready to go. And the same thing, they opened it up and were like, I assume looked at it and were like, these people are over prepared. They're good to go. And I assume they just let me in the country after that point. But yeah, all that time and effort for what seemed like a very quick, just kind of process at the end of the day, which ultimately was not. But
it's all about just collecting fees, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But I made it here. They haven't gotten
I've been quicker just to take a one of those cruise lines, take a cruise ship down to Mexico, and then just run across the border. They just let you in, give you a blanket, voter registration card. Come on in. You get
start giving you money here pretty soon to do stuff like that.
You just went in there. You got to go at the bottom, dude. You try to get in the top. You got to go down.
I went the opposite direction, right? That most people are accustomed to. But I made it in eventually, and at that point in time when I first moved here, you know, I had my background in, you know, training professional athletes is what I did, and I was pretty good at it. I had a lot of fun times and good experiences working with, NHLers and probably the highest level athletes you can come up with in the eastern part of Canada with my background and who I knew growing up and just the relationships I had. But when I moved here, I had nothing. I knew absolutely no one. Maybe had $50 in my pocket and a whole bunch of student debt that I had to figure out. But I knew I was coming for love and I was going to figure it all out from there. And so we got married right away. And, as the immigration process took hold and did its thing over a number of months, I couldn't work. Like I wasn't legally allowed to do anything. So I found some odds and ends jobs, like helping people on farms or whatnot, whatever you paid your buddy there to help you with over the weekend. I probably did some of that and digging ditches and whatever I could do to just kind of not be a burden on society. That was like the only rule they gave me when I came to the US. They were like, just don't be a burden to everyone else. So I managed to accomplish that. But during that time when I couldn't work, it was tough to figure out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. I had, specific skill set and background, and, I had some good relationships back home. But here in Minneapolis, when I landed, I knew very, very few people, really just my wife's family and a few friends that I kind of retained from college years or just kind of knew from the short period of time that I'd been around. But I knew I needed to do something. I had to find a kind of a plan C, I think I'm onto at this point already in my life. And, tried the training thing, got connected with some facilities in the area and ultimately did some good things, got heavily involved in youth sports because I've always loved teaching and educating and being around kids. It's so much fun. I like to be, I would never have gotten anywhere in my life if it weren't for the coaches and the people that I got to spend time around. So that's always been important to me. And I tried to give back as much as I could, even when I had very little going on. But I was just struggling to figure out what I wanted to do. I wasn't really having as much fun as I wanted. The day-to-day was a bit of a step back from what I'd doing previously. And like all people that go through transitions, or I think all people should, maybe I'm biased at this point, I talked to my financial advisor. I sat, like, literally, this is how I got into the industry. Was I sat down with him, and he was my college roommate from down in Iowa, where I spent all my collegiate years, met my wife, and just had one of those conversations you have with your advisor about the way forward. Like, what should I be thinking about? What should I be doing? And we got some kind of bare bones things started in our plan and started making some money and had some more conversations. And then finally I was sitting down, not as an advisor to client conversation, but a good friend of mine, just like, what the heck should I do? I think we were having a beer or two at the time. And he literally, I know why he did it now, but he called it out and he said, you'd be really good at this. And little did I know at the time that he was probably getting compensated to recruit me into the industry or something. He had something going on in the back end.
I was going to say, was it Ameriprise or Edward Jones?
No, it was neither. Actually, I cut my teeth in the industry working with Mutual of Omaha. And my buddy grew up, he's from Nebraska. He was living in Omaha, and that's how he got started. And he just said, look, personality-wise, you've got the characteristics and, the skills to get to know people and talk to them and be genuine, all those things that, you want in someone you're trying to take advice from. And everything else, he said, you could probably just learn it. He's like, if I can do it, you can do it. He had a background in business and finance and everything, but I laughed at him when he said it. I was like, there's no way. Like, I liked finance. I did some business courses in school, ran my own business back in Canada, and always enjoyed, the idea of what money is and what it's for, and, what I thought it was for. And like everyone else, like, struggled to make it. And I'm just one of those people that enjoy the struggle, enjoy the idea of working your butt off and making something out of yourself. And it caught me at the right time, Carter, to answer your question. What got me here? The right conversation at the right time, whatever you want to call that. And when I kind of asked my friend, like, why do you think I'd be good at this? He goes, well, like, what do you do for a living? Like, think about what you do right now. And he was a ex-professional athlete. He played for the Detroit Lions, like, very well accustomed to what it takes to be at that level, and said the same things. He's like, coaching's imperative no matter where you are in your journey. Like, you could be Tom Brady, or you can be a 50th round pick that, is on the fringe of maybe making it, maybe not making it. Coaches will help you, and people have good advice out there. And you're one of those people that understand how to kind of break down a scenario, understand what people are trying to accomplish, and look at it from their side of the table and try to get in their shoes. And what I did for a living was analyze movement. I took an athlete that wanted to run faster, jump higher, throw a ball fast, like whatever their goal was in their respective sport, and figure out where the inefficiencies laid or where they had advantages over other people, and then try to maximize those to create an outcome that was bigger than what they were doing right now. And so just like in financial planning, you meet people, you figure out where they want to go, you analyze their scenario and try to uncover what's going to help them and what's going to get in their way. And then you build a plan that you can follow and course correct and deviate from and adjust as need be as you kind of hit these collective, checkpoints along the way. And I thought, sure, like that all makes kind of sense. Like I can analyze a scenario, I can figure out where problems lay and then decide how to best overcome them. But I don't know anything about this. And he goes, it's easy. Like, here's what you need to do. And basically threw me back into the ring of education. And from that moment on, I've basically been obsessed and trying to be as good of an advisor as I can be. I got a phone call the next day or 2 days later. I've talked to my buddy from a recruiter at Mutual of Omaha. And so that's how I ended up working with them, kind of backtracking a little bit. But yeah, just people that I connected with and talked to, had some good conversations, and the right place at the right time is ultimately what got me there. And so I just felt the individuals I met with early on were genuine. They were saying the right things, and maybe they were just good at their jobs at getting people to sign up and recruited into their organization. But there was really three things that really attracted me to what I thought this career was, and what I've now come to realize it is, in fact, was time freedom, money freedom, and freedom to grow as a person. And, in this industry, you can work with whoever you want. You can decide where you want to go and what you want to do. You can specialize in different areas, and you can build your own schedule. Like I work for Fiat, and I've chose to partner with them. And I don't know if Brad got into much of the detail, but even that, we came together, very serendipitously, like just through people knowing people, and it was the right fit at the right time. But I get to set my own schedule. And for, as you're talking about before, as a father of three kids now, there's really nothing better in my life than being able to kind of dictate what I do when I do it, or when I do it. So that part is huge. Money freedom. We're in America. This is what brought me here, is the American dream, the opportunity to go and make myself a career and a life that I want, and design it out in any way that I see fit. And this industry gives you the right to do that. It gives you the ability to do it. And I can go wherever I want with this. I can work as hard as I want, as little as I want, as much as I want. And we can, take this business, Fiat Wealth Management, anywhere we want it to go. And that's truly exciting to me. I've been a very, high level, I'm doing the bunny ears thing, you guys can see it on the screen, but high level, producing individual my whole life. I had big aspirations early on. And so that's carried over into this career as far as, where I want to take it. So those were big pieces of it. But ultimately what got me was this idea that I can be more than what I was when I started. I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. Financial services and advising, as you guys know, and the people you've talked to, it's a tough industry to make it in. No matter where you start and how you cut your teeth, it's long hours and complicated concepts and ideas mixed into it. And then you got the ultimate, variable of dealing with people. And so when you think things are going good, they can go bad very quickly, and vice versa. And so I really enjoyed the idea of getting better as a person, and not just understanding the finances and the numbers behind the scene, but how to communicate with people better, and how to resonate with them, and just be more human when dealing with these things. Because ultimately money is something that, whether you notice it or not, in this country people struggle with, and even back home in Canada, money's tough anywhere you go. And it like I was saying before, I just believe that you do better when you have the right people in your corner to help you with those types of decisions, and you know what to think of, or somebody's telling you what you're not thinking of, and you get little course corrections as you go. And so I've been challenged in every way I can think of in this industry, professionally and personally, with just who I am. And I feel like it's over the last, decade, almost a decade now of doing this, it's I'm not the same person. And I look back as the best part of my job, right? I get to kind of dictate where I go and what I do and who I do it with, but how it's helped me grow as a person, I think is truly the coolest point. I can't wait for, 30 years down the road when I'm ready to retire and do all the things that I'm helping people do today and realize some of the places I've been and what I've been able to accomplish. So you started off with your question of what I got here. I started with love, and I guess I'm ending with love too, when I'm taking this. So there's probably a lot more to that story, and I can get long-winded. If you ask any of my colleagues here at the office, we could go all night getting into those things. But that's where I'm coming from. I'm a French-Canadian that didn't play hockey, that didn't grow up learning about finances. I come from very humble beginnings. I had nothing in my pocket, and I've manifested it into a pretty good career at this point, and doing a lot of things financially, personally, that I've wanted to do, and I get to help a lot of people do things financially that they wanted to do. So very rewarding job, and I love every second of it.
Yeah, let me just jump in and just ask you one last question.
Yeah.
I know we're coming up on a break and everything, but I'm curious because I don't know if I caught this or if I missed this or if you. So you met your now wife. You've got 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy. We talked, pre-show about that. You got the son's the sandwich in between the 2 girls, so that could be interesting as you get older there, right? But, so where did you go to college that you met her? Because she's from Minnesota, but you're from Canada. So where did you go to school that you met?
Yeah, I kind of jumped over that, I suppose. We met down in the cornfields of Iowa. I finished my collegiate career at the University of Northern Iowa, playing on the baseball team there. Back in was it 08? I don't remember the specific dates, but right when the financial crisis was taking hold, we ended up having budgetary cuts and a whole bunch of drama. And there's actually news stories on it, I believe, where our baseball program got cut, and it was pretty dramatic at the time. But I landed in the cornfields of Iowa one day. Started at community college, like I said, just trying to play baseball, and that was the easiest path, educationally and just from a baseball perspective to go the route I wanted to go. But I got in my car one day and everyone around me spoke French, and I'm in the major, metropolitan area that is Montreal. And then basically a day later, I got out of my car in 9 feet tall cornstalk fields of Iowa, instantly regretting the decision I had made, because I was like, this is different, man. But after a couple of years of playing ball and just focusing on that, I transferred to the University of Northern Iowa, met my wife the first day we were there. Very randomly, her roommates were fighting with their boyfriends, and they were baseball players, and we crossed paths on the street one night, just walking, and very much a love story. Like I said, I can get into a lot more details from there, but we met randomly and been together about 15 years basically. And after I moved here and we got married and just started our family, a pretty typical American story after that, Canadian American story after that point. But Panther, University of Northern Iowa is where my degree says.
Well, all right. There you go. Well, I was just curious if we had missed that part where you guys met.
No, I glossed over. I apologize.
Minnesota, and you're from, Quebec, I'm assuming. Yeah. Right?
So Scott, were you on the baseball team getting ready to play, and the whole thing got cut?
Man.
There was no team?
Yeah, it's a fun story. So the way I remember it, and my details could be hazy, I was not really paying full attention to it, but like I said, I got hurt. So I ended up taking a year off of playing baseball just to try to recover. I was a pitcher and I had some elbow issues. I wasn't completely useless, so I got to practice and be a part of the whole experience, but didn't get to play in the games and did what's called a red shirt, so didn't lose a year of eligibility. And then my first year back, we were down in Arkansas, literally on the bus to our first game of the season.
That's where I'm from. What part of Arkansas?
We were in
Fayetteville, Little Rock.
Little Rock. Yeah, we were in Little Rock. Excuse me. I couldn't remember exactly where we were. And we were on the bus, and someone got a text message from like their mom or something about it. And all of a sudden it was like everyone was in the back of the bus, and we had to play a game after that. I think we got trounced. I think we got beat pretty good, if I recall. But yeah, as soon as the game was over, we went to the hotel, and coach took us into the conference room, was like, this is what's happening. And we all found out, like, if you're not a senior, your career here is over.
So it was the last season that they didn't cut you mid-season or nothing. It was just like
no, we found out it was done the first game of our season. So like, very, very interesting. I had actually a whole year
of season, or you had one game and done?
No, we played out all.
Okay, I couldn't. Okay, at least you had
time
to figure it out.
Oh, it was weird though. It was like no one had a future there, so no one really cared about the team anymore. And it was all like, okay, can I get drafted this last year, or can I find a new home, basically? And it sucked for me because I was damaged goods. I was an old guy at that point in most coaches' eyes, and just kind of on the tail end of my career. I played pretty well that season, just kind of gave it up though. At that point, my dreams were done. It was heartbreaking. I didn't watch baseball for like 5 years after that, probably. I was over it for a little while. But it was weird times, tell you, man.
Yeah, weird times.
That bus trip back from the game.
Well, I guess I just watched the Montreal Expos play. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, baseball just gets taken away from me everywhere I go. Watch out, Twins.
Yeah. Everywhere you go. That's a bummer. That's an interesting story, though. So I want to make sure
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing.
It's taken me to a lot of different places, and it sucked at the time, but I look back on it, and it's very meaningful experiences for sure.
Yeah, a few years after I left, our baseball program got cut, and now it's back. So
yeah,
I don't know what that's all about, but I'm happy that it is back. So, all right, well, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, let's get into what Scott's doing now to help people manage their money. We'll be right back.
Estate planning. What does that even mean? When the inevitable happens for everyone on this planet, your estate plan kicks into action. But first, let's start with what an estate is. An estate is simply everything you own. Now, here's the issue and what needs to be understood when this event occurs. You only have two choices on this plan. Number one, either you plan how your estate gets handed out and distributed to those you leave behind. Or number two, your state decides who gets everything you own. For the first time ever, you can now take complete and total control of this plan that you've been deprived of for most of your life and generations before you. You can get personalized assistance along the way with a team of specialists whose job it is to make sure you have true peace of mind. It's important to understand that estate planning is a journey, and rest assured that our team will be available to you all along the way and at every step. Welcome to eState Plan, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. To learn more, make sure to reach out to your local advisor licensed with us or go to our website for more information.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house, we have Scott Airey. He's a financial advisor, and that's most of our guests are financial advisors. We we did have a health coach come in. It's mostly people on the money side.
Yeah.
That's what we got me for.
That's right.
We're going health, segment 3. But now we're going into segment 2. So let's get into Scott. Scott, what are you doing over at Fiat that to help people with their money and their planning and succession planning and all that jazz?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, I think we're doing something pretty unique, right? Like I said, I've been in the industry long enough now to see multiple avenues, multiple veins of what's possible. And what Fiat really represents is helping people spend money. I don't know how else to boil it down. It's kind of our tagline is we teach people how to spend it. And, transitioning into retirement, like any other phase in life you've never been before, comes with a whole host of questions and concerns and, doubts and excitements and just a plethora of emotions, right? And so really it's about helping people through that transition and giving them the confidence to do the things they want to do. And so we've chosen as a firm to really specialize in the area of financial planning that really helps people maximize their income, maximizing their spending plans, with a very close eye on mitigating taxes along the way. Now, obviously, in order to create income and in a retirement setting and allow people to spend, there's a whole host of other components that go into it. Where you choose to invest money, how you protect it, what you're doing legally. There's a lot of different mechanisms, but ultimately what we're doing is taking a comprehensive approach to helping people distribute their resources, right? They've just spent how many years saving and accumulating and being in this routine of going to work and putting money aside. And then they wake up one day and they go, wait, I got to spend it now. And most people are not really versed in that, right? At the end of the day, most people don't retire multiple times, and they go out and they start to do their education and look at different resources, and they're being told a lot of things to be fearful of. And retirement is supposed to be this very exciting period of time in their lives. And what we're really doing is helping people understand what they have available to them to plan around. Like, what is the tax code saying for your future, right? If you're intending to spend your money in this way, is there anything that you can do to leverage the code to your advantage? Or at the very least, just to not get tripped up by some of the complexity and confusion that lays in, per se, the tax code. And then ultimately, how to put your money to work in the market so that when you are spending it, you understand the different levels of risk that are now a part of this conversation, right? Like what's going on around us today, for example, has people concerned. And you have inflation rates that are higher than what we've been accustomed to. There's, volatility in the markets, and there's downtimes, and all of those things breed a lot of fear and anxiety in people. And what tends to happen, in my experience, is people freeze. They become fearful, and they decide to, alter their course or go down a different path. And that's fine. I think ultimately change is inevitable, and we have to be flexible and adaptable in what we're doing. But you shouldn't be making changes or big wholesale changes to your plan out of fear. And ultimately, when you can line that out for people and explain to them what they should, what they can expect moving forward, it relieves a lot of that pressure, it relieves a lot of that anxiety. And so it's just a matter of bringing that all together and educating people first and foremost on what is possible, so that they can feel comfortable in what they have and spend the way that they want throughout the course of their retirement. So it's, obviously a lot of math and science goes into what we're looking at in terms of, distribution planning and looking at taxation. But at the end of the day, it's about dealing with people and coaching them through their circumstances and helping them make the decisions that they have lacking confidence around. I think ultimately is a way to boil it all down. So yeah, we just teach people to spend their money, guys. That's all we're doing. Boil it down to that.
So I guess it would be fair to say then that the demographic or your that you're working with, boomer retirees, right? Is that predominantly the makeup of, yourself, and is that across the board for Fiat Wealth Management? Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, I mean, we have a model or system that we've created, internally as far as what we offer. Go to our website and check it out. Anyone that's listening, it's something that's unique to Fiat Wealth Management and the way that we've kind of positioned it all. But it is really about this transition in life, and we call it the retirement renovation process. And the idea is we're helping people take this step in life and transition to a new phase, which is retirement. And those individuals have very similar concerns, very similar expectations the way forward. Now, everyone's plan and circumstances are unique, but like any business, it's very difficult to cater to everyone and present the same, type of advice and do the right type of education and put a name out there. And so we do help a very wide range of families and individuals in the area of, preparing for retirement, and specifically on the tax side of things. But most of our clients are somewhere between the age of 55 to 75, right? Very broad brush that we're painting with. Some people are fortunate enough to retire sooner than that. Others retire later. But at the end of the day,
people that are coming to us for, what starts with education and it ends with specific advice is how to make that transition. And so do I personally have clients that fall outside of that mold? Absolutely. I'm in my mid 30s. All my friends and my circle, so to speak, is in the same phase of life. And a lot of my friends are entrepreneurial. So they're dealing with, more complicated scenarios than the average bear might be. And so they have different sets of questions, and they're getting into some nuances with planning that are a little bit more advanced than just like, how do we fund 401ks and save money, right? We're getting into some annual type of planning that really stems around tax mitigation and, preparing for things in their life that are coming up, not just in retirement, but before that, and creating the right type of liquidity for their plan. But ultimately, if you're retiring or just retired, you're the type of person we want to chat with. And we don't have minimums or anything like that, like a lot of other advisory firms do. We use this thing ultimately to gauge whether or not it's a good fit with our firm, called the grocery store test. And people may have heard of this before, but it's quite simply this. If I see you at the grocery store randomly one day, and you're at the end of the produce aisle and you haven't seen me yet, am I coming up to you to say hi, or am I going down the cereal aisle hoping you take a left and I go right so that we don't connect? We're all just about helping good people. And the people that we really resonate most with, and if you look at the history of our firm and the founders, and you've met Brad and his backstory, like I'm not from the Midwest, but a lot of what I grew up dealing with and struggling through, and my parents' story is very, synonymous with the people that we deal with and what the owners went through growing up, and the other advisor in the firm. Like, we all just kind of get along in that regard, and we're looking for individuals and families that share that same belief. Like, you're going to work with who you know, like, and trust at the end of the day. And you got to get along with these people if you're going to give meaningful and valuable advice over the course of their life. Like, I'm having conversations with people that are deeper than most of their relatives. I'm getting to know people on a very close and intimate level. So that's most important to me. Like, do I like you? Am I going to enjoy having a conversation with you in 3 years and 5 years when I see your name on my calendar? And so ultimately, there's two things that we care about in who we work with is, do we get along? And our whole process is set up to uncover this as we go, so that we can really get into these conversations with people that haven't met us yet in a very comfortable setting, non-pressure oriented. It's all education. And so people that resonate and kind of become attracted to what we're doing are looking for ideas and are looking for education in an area that they feel is lacking. And our whole business is predicated on this idea that there's a huge gap in this industry between financial advice and investing your dollars and how to spend them and how taxes, impact that. And so that's what we're primarily doing is helping people understand what's possible in those areas, and just looking deep enough into their plans and into who they are as people to uncover what makes the most sense for them. And so everything we do is customized to what, the family or the people sitting across the table from us is looking for. And as long as they want to be educated, and first and foremost have this like doer mentality, if you want to call it that, like, they might feel like they know everything, or they might feel like they know nothing. I could care less. As long as they want to get better and improve what they have going on, or improve their level of education in that area so that they can take advancements, I'll work with you all day. We're, I guess, lucky enough, or we've done a good enough job, setting up this business and running our business, that we have a lot of great clients, and we don't need to, we're not like this McDonald's type model where we need to work with everybody that rolls through our door in order to accomplish what we want to accomplish as a business and as individuals financially. We are growing, and we do want to meet more people. But I'm fortunate enough to, just like the individuals that are vetting me out, that I get to do that as well. And so we take that very seriously. But once we get to know people, we're really diving into this idea of, what is it that you want? What are you looking for? Our model doesn't have like a set of, there's no menu. Like it's not a suite of services or products. It's, you tell me what you want and I'm going to custom make the solutions you're looking for. Like we use this renovation kind of process as a way to describe that, like, look, you're coming to make a custom home on the other end of this process. Like you're trying to move into retirement. What do you want that to be? What are you doing in this home, right? What does it look like? Are you facing east? Are you facing west? Like, do you have a lake? Or are you looking at the fort? Like this is a metaphor and an analogy of what you want your retirement to look like. And once people uncover that, and we can bring that out of them, because that's another thing we find most people don't really know is what they're trying to do in their retirement years. And they don't necessarily have that vivid of a vision. It's not that outlined. I want to stop working. I want to be comfortable. I'm sick of like whatever the reason is that they decide to retire. What we want people to understand is that the more clear the vision is for the way forward, the more that you can design out your plan to accomplish that. Like most people tell me when we talk taxes and we talk planning that they think they're stuck and this is what they have available to them. And then once we show them that, like, you can pack this back up in a box, and when you move, you can unpack it and put it somewhere else and make it do something a little bit different for you. That's what this is all about. And that's who we're trying to work with, is the people that are like, I want to really enjoy this phase of my life. I want to learn something, and I want to work with people that are just as excited about this as I am. And so that's who we care about working with. Like, I don't care if you have $1 million or $1 at the end of the day. It's about the quality of people on the other side of the conversation. Now, the type of planning we do, I think, also resonates and fits a little bit better with individuals that have been able to put a little bit of money aside. But at the end of the day, we work with blue collar individuals primarily, right? Those that have worked their butts off, and maybe that means they've reached executive level at their business, and they've been entrepreneurial. But at the end of the day, they're people that have built their future and have come from a place of earning their wealth. And we just want to help them be good stewards of those dollars and really focus on what's important to them, and not say, like, this is what we have to offer, take it or leave it.
Yep.
I can do anything I want within the confines of this industry, right? We have governing bodies and certain rules that we have to abide by. But outside of that, it's 100% unique to the people I'm talking to on the other side of the table. And so, the people we work with, I think really make our firm what it is. And ultimately, we're just trying to seek those types of individuals and families that have worked hard, have been able to amass some resources, and have no idea how to spend them, right, in a way that makes them feel comfortable about the way forward. And it's very rewarding to give people that peace of mind. And a lot of our clients have a desire to give and pass money on, right? They know they've done well financially, and they're in a position where they want to, like I said, be good stewards of it, give back to their communities and give back to their families. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do, is just help them maximize that, right? Take care of you first. Spend all the money you want. But if you have some inkling or some sort of like confidence there's going to be something left over, how do we maximize that? And that's where it becomes very, very rewarding and fun to get to know the people on the other side of that conversation. Is what's in it for you guys? Like, what do you want out of this? And let's go make that happen. I was reading like Tim's background and some of the things you've done with health and people, right? It's those types of stories. Like, how do you change someone's life for the better, and do it as simply as just giving them a new idea and, kicking them in the ass or giving them a hug when they need it along the way. So I'm prattling on now, as you can probably tell. I like to get into this stuff, but that's who we're looking for. That's who we work with, is people that see it that way and are really wanting to take care of spending their money and doing it as efficiently as possible.
No, that's awesome. And obviously you guys are doing some really, really good things, there at Fiat Wealth Management. And I have had, obviously Brad was on the podcast.
Yeah.
We've gotten a chance to speak about some other things. And I know we continue conversations about how Epic Services, which is our estate and legacy planning solution, on how we might be able to, become a partnership in that to help those those family succession planning need to get done, because he said that's kind of sort of one of the missing pieces that you guys could definitely utilize. So, but everything you guys do, what you're saying, what Brad's been saying, it resonates with me so much, because, and this is sort of the theme. And I think it's interesting that a lot of athletes get into the financial services business. Very successful financial advisors tend to come from those who were athletes previously, right? Because it builds, that teamwork and that hard work.
Yeah.
And, you're sort of trying to help one another to be able to do this, especially in a team sport, right? But it also takes a lot of practice and hard work and skill level that not everybody, possesses, right? So athletes do really, really well in this, but it's amazing that the theme is having a heart for wanting to really help individuals, helping people, right? Coaching, right? And when I moved out to Phoenix, Arizona, it was to get into the golf business.
Yeah.
And I wanted to coach. I loved teaching people how to hit a golf ball, in the air with a little flight to it or whatever. I got off on that, right? And then eventually it led me into the financial services, right? So it's kind of the theme of us. And I think that there's a lot of great things that, Epic and CSI might be able to collaboratively work with Fiat on being able to enhance what it is that you guys do already. Yeah. But the core of it is helping people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you can look back at, and don't quote me on this guy. I don't want anyone writing in and saying, hey, I did research on this and I couldn't verify. But I think if you look back at any successful person, there's some sort of inherent obsession in there. And at the end of the day, what really when the light bulb went off for me was people just in general, they do bad with money in one form or another. And when I was able to sit back and say, look, no matter who I'm helping, whether they have millions of dollars or we're in a conversation where look, this isn't the trajectory you're on is not a good one. And we got to fix some issues, right? No matter what that is, seeing how that impacted them on the back end and the value that brings, not always just from a monetary standpoint, but from whatever is important to those people, that's where I'm at. That's what gets me excited is, being able to sit there and go, look, I know some pretty amazing things, some pretty valuable information. And no matter how successful you've been, my only goal is to try to know 1% more than you so I can add some value there. And if you can take that approach, and no matter what scenario you are in my opinion, and you take that obsessive kind of compulsive thought process, Kobe Bryant comes to mind of all people in this, one of the best basketball players of all time. Same with Michael Jordan. I'm sure they enjoy their money, rest in peace, Kobe. But I'm sure they did not do it for the money, right? You could look back and say, Kobe references the sound of the basketball going through the net, making the swish. And that's the only thing that got him up in the morning to go and do what he did to get better, right? That's kind of how it is for me. And what I believe what we're doing here at Fiat is people come first. They have to in this conversation. I'm a fiduciary advisor. So not only does my license mandate that I have to do this, you would think in a position like this that it comes as part of the territory, right? You're always going to take the person's interest on the other side of this conversation first. And if you don't, it's very easy to figure that stuff out, right? Some people aren't ever going to figure it out. And not all, I think you've had people on your podcast talk about this, not all advisors are the same. And sometimes people aren't out there for everyone's best interest. And there's not always any, I'm not saying that's bad, right? People got to sell things and make a living. And I believe that any financial product that exists out there is meant for good. And if it's designed properly and positioned properly, it's going to do good. But if you're thinking of how can I sell something to help me, it's not going to come across genuine to that person. And if they know anything, they're going to figure that out pretty quickly, right? And some people don't know enough about the industry and are never going to take the time, and they get put in positions they get put in, and that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. But I just believe that if you take care of people first and you have a genuine curiosity for them as individuals and their story and what they want to accomplish as a family, like that's where all the value is in advising. Because when you can figure out what is getting them up in the morning and what's causing them to go and do all of these things, then you find very unique ways to accomplish goals and mitigate problems and, be successful. But I just think it's part of the territory. Like I'm wearing a hat that, my title is advisor, it's coach, it's teach, like whatever you want to call it. Like if I'm not waking up every morning just trying to better the world around me and help the people in my sphere, then what the heck am I doing? And if I'm only here for money, and don't get me wrong, guys, I like money. I'm not in this industry if I didn't, right? I'm fascinated by it. And I love having it. But I just believe that I'm going to make it by doing the right things, by taking care of people. And by doing it the right way, like we'll get introduced to the people that see it our way and believe in what we're doing, and we'll create the win-win. So I'm never in a position where I feel like I have to talk somebody into doing something or, persuade, a prospective client or a client to do something. It's quite literally like about education and taking their considerations first and say, look, like, here's this big, beautiful world of options ahead of you. Like, here's what doesn't fit. Here's what does fit. Here's what's most efficient, but here's what I think resonates with you as a person most, right? Like that's my job as a fiduciary, and I take that very seriously. But yeah, it is kind of weird when you think about it. Like financial services industry as a whole is a melting pot. Like you look back at like any successful advisor, the chances that they have a background in finance and went to school for this sort of thing is pretty minuscule in reality. In fact, the most successful advisors I've met come from just the most obscure backgrounds of all time. And I think I love it because when you actually meet those people, it's generally the ones that are just like super interested in the people and really enjoy being around people and love to help them. And that's a big part of why I chose to come partner with Fiat at the end of the day, was what Brad and Matt were doing with education and how they were choosing to help people. And like I said before, I'm not where I am in my life if it weren't for my financial advisor friend, if it weren't for my coaches and the people that have educated me along the way. And so this is just my way of giving back. And I still do a little bit of coaching, like in sports on the side too, because I enjoy it. And I don't take a paycheck from that. I don't need it. I don't want it. And so I just give my time and give my energy back to the things that I care about. And people will pay us. That's how I see it, right? If they believe what we're doing is in their best interest and we're sitting on the same side of the table and they believe we're going to help them. And so that's all I'm trying to do every single day is educate and help.
What you do is you help your prospects come to their logical conclusion that it just makes sense to work with you. That's really what you do. And if they can, if you don't have to convince them, and I'm coming up on the break and we're getting ready to get into the third segment, but you shouldn't have to convince them, right?
Yeah.
You give them what it is, and the ideal clients will come to their own conclusions where it'll resonate with them to such a level they'll be compelled. Yeah. And I would venture a guess that you guys probably get a lot of introductions because there's everywhere they go, they're raving fans, right? They're what we call a 4A client. The fourth A and the 4A is an advocate, and they advocate for you everywhere they go. That grocery store, grocery list thing you were talking about, they probably see their friends at the grocery store and they go like, I got to tell you all about Scott Airey because this guy is unbelievable, and they can't help themselves because of what it is that you bring to the level of, advising for them. So kudos to you.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, just to add on it, like at the end of the day, it's good business, right? To take care of people and do the right thing. And the one thing for anyone listening that, sees this as valuable advice, like you can't just hear it and try to fake that. Like, there's a lot of good sales book out there. There's a lot of good podcasts that can teach you all sorts of things. And don't get me wrong, the tactics of it are vital. Like how you communicate these things with people are very important. Like I love my wife. Doesn't mean we don't ever fight. We get into squabbles because of how, generally I communicate and the lack of communication, I should say. But every relationship is going to have a good day and a bad day. But if you're not genuine about it, it comes across very, very quickly. But all I'm getting at with these comments is you can't fake this. Like, I truly do care. Like, I don't know how else to say that. Those of you that listen, like, I really give a crap about the people on the other line of the phone, of the table, of the Zoom call that I'm on. And if there's nothing in it for me, so be it. I got a whole host of other great clients that I already work with, and we just spend all of our time outside of that educating people. And it's a lot of fun. It truly is an amazing, endeavor to give people something they're looking for and take that pressure off the table of like, look, I don't know if and how I can help you. And that's my only mission. That's what I tell people. It's the first thing I say when I get on the phone is, let's uncover what it is that you're here for. Like, why did you want to talk to me? Like, of all times in your life, you picked today to talk to a financial advisor. Why? What do you want to talk about? And then we figure out what led them to that conclusion and what they're trying to accomplish after they hang up the phone. And that's my only focus. That's
I think, Scott, what you're talking about is actually raising consciousness, because when you treat people well, you treat them like you would treat your mom or yourself. But people don't realize that we're everything's connected.
Yep.
Like everything. And I remember listening to one of my spiritual mentors, and he said, like when you meet other people, look into their eyes and see yourself, because you're there. And if you do that and you walk through life treating other people like you would treat yourself, life is going to go much better for you.
Mm-hmm. I think they call that the golden rule, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, that's what it is. And it's no secret. I really appreciate
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's no secret. It's just a matter of living it and truly believing it and making it a part of your DNA, not just trying to make it your business practice Monday through Friday.
Right. And the competitive side of you is probably it's fun. I mean, being a financial advisor is fun because there's always, like, what I liked about it is, like, it's the same but different. So you have the certain things, but then there's the variety there too, right? So that was a lot of fun. Cool.
Absolutely.
Carter, did you have anything else for him before we go to break?
No, I think that was fantastic, and I know Richard's got a lot out of that and everything. And Scott, thank you so much for sharing, segment one, your backstory, and obviously, what you're doing day to day at Fiat Wealth Management.
Cool.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right, guys, we'll take another quick break. When we get back, we're going to flip the script, and then Scott can ask me any question he wants on health. Stay around. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here. I'm back with my co-host, Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house, we've got Scott Airey. And Scott, now this is the section where we flip the script and you get to ask me any question on health, and we'll rap about health. So do you have any questions for yourself, personally, public health? What do you got?
My mind's been going around a lot of the mental health side of things right now. And I'm not trying to take this conversation towards mental health.
That's fine.
But, we're in the dog days of the spring here. I was talking to Carter before we got on, just like the weather sucks in Minnesota right now. It's like spring, but not really spring. It's been cold and gray and dreary. And so it has me thinking about like those days in the winter that just suck and you're feeling depressed and, going through seasonal whatevers.
Mm-hmm.
But my question to you, Tim, is how does someone deal with that from a health perspective? Like mentally, we go through a lot of things. I'm not talking just seasonality changes or, depression that comes with that, but could it be changes in markets? Could it be something that, happened to them in their personal lives that they got to go through? There's stresses and all kinds of things that lead to bad thoughts. And so my question is, how does somebody start from the body and work back towards the brain? How do we do things to stay sharp, stay healthy, and keep our minds in a good spot?
Well, I think it's all about boosting our frequency. Like what, because we were talking about that earlier. Everything is frequency. And so if you're looking at a cellular level and boiling it down to the atom and stuff like that, you want them spinning quick, spinning fast. And, they don't spin that fast when you're drinking Diet Cokes and eating Cheetos.
Yeah.
Right. Or hanging around people that drag you down. Or you're living in a house that has mold poisoning. Right. Or you're next to, you have a smart meter outside your bedroom, and you don't think about that because there's no awareness there. Right. But, leading back to, I don't know, you were kind of hinting around depression, which is a massive problem because we've got, it's actually the number one selling pharmaceutical drug. So think about that. Think about how many people, it's kind of crazy to think about, but it's the number one freaking selling pharmaceutical drug. So people are actually depressed, and they're reaching out for a synthetic derivative to try to fix that problem. But it's a poor solution because they're not getting to the root of the issue. So a lot of times when people are depressed, it's a multifaceted deal. Number one, there's the chemical pollution weighing down their cells. We're above the 45th parallel up here, a lot of us, and it is dreary and a lot of rain. And human beings are supposed to be within 1,500 miles of the equator. Look at your skin. We're not designed for, cold weather like that. So, I guess I'll just get into some of the strategies, man, because it's like on a physical level, it's really simple. Because of the lack of sunshine, most people know that vitamin D is very important, right? Getting out in sunshine. This is why it's really important to get outside regardless of what the temperature is. And what a lot of people don't realize is that when you go outside and it's cold, that's actually a lymphatic therapy. When you go outside and your nose starts running, your body's draining. It's like it starts moving garbage out of you, like literally. So hot, cold therapies. Right. So even if it's, so I would be like taking lots of vitamin D. We actually, I don't know, Carter, did I sent you bottles of the V-Stack. Did you get any?
I haven't gotten the bottles yet. If you send it to me, I haven't gotten them yet.
Okay. Well, remind me after.
Don't forget, I just moved too, so maybe it has to be forwarded to if you send it to my old address.
Oh, well, let's talk about that afterward. Anyway, so Scott, we have like a new product that's got, our green juice product, Green 85, has some vitamin D in it. I put a little bit in there just because of the whole COVID thing and the depression. I knew suicide rates were going to go up, and we know 70% of people in the United States are vitamin deficient, especially if you have dark colored skin. You think 15 to 20 times more. So, telling people to stay inside, don't look at the sun it's like a death sentence. So people with dark colored skin, if you're hearing this or somebody is, more than ever, they've got to get outside, wear natural fiber clothing, get outside for at least 35 minutes a day, even if it's cold or in a snowstorm. Those UV rays will still penetrate and get to the skin if you're wearing natural fiber clothes. If you're wearing synthetics, nylons, microfibers, that kind of stuff, it's going to block and shield that. You won't get it. So getting outside is important. Very, very, very important. Clean air. Get outside, get your vitamin D, supplement vitamin D, which is very important. Exercise is a depression buster, but a lot of people that are depressed don't want to exercise, right? So that's where we got to start, getting them drinking lots of purified, restructured water, taking vitamin D. Another thing, actually, which is really interesting, I think you'll find this extraordinary because of your background in kinesiology and biomechanics, is that when you masticate the teeth and you chew your food really well, not only do you secrete the enzymes amylase and lipase to digest your food properly, which actually most of digestion happens in the mouth. It just gets finished off in the stomach. It's like a finishing tank. When you chew your food really well, you're actually stimulating meridian points in the teeth, which activate and upregulate your serotonin. Now hold your head on this one, up to 500%. So for those that aren't familiar with what serotonin is, think of it as your happy juice, right? So you're not depressed. And there's no pill, whether it's natural or a synthetic version, that you could take that was going to do that. So by chewing your food and stimulating meridian points in your teeth, that is a very powerful therapy for depression. Now, another therapy that you can do is go help somebody that's less fortunate than you. This will snap you out of it faster than anything. You can helping shovel a walk, right? Or if it's raining really bad and I don't know, maybe some old lady's gutters broke off and they need fixed, go over and fix them for her, right? And that's going to start bringing you out of that depression. It works pretty much every time. I don't know about you guys, but when you mowed the lawn for somebody and you didn't get paid, or shoveled a walk for an old lady, or helped somebody, how good do you feel? I mean, it's pretty amazing, right? It's like that's like one of the best vibrational frequencies out there. So
I actually let me just throw in this one time, because this actually happened to me. I was driving down the street and there was this car that needed to get this tire changed, but they had like pulled in this parking lot, and I could see, like, I'm like, you're going to kill yourself the way you're trying to change this tire. So I went in there like immediately. I'm like, hold on, time out. We got to get to a level grade here, not on gravel. This is in Arkansas, right? So go figure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but yeah, did it make me feel good? And it was, in Arkansas, they're like, oh, here, I'm like, no, but it made you feel good, right? You had that, some adrenaline there too. But anyway,
another thing that's a good, and then how'd you feel? You felt great. I mean, that's what it boils down to. You left, you're like, there's nothing better than helping somebody for nothing.
Totally.
There's nothing. It's like the best feeling. You're just doing it out of the goodness of your heart. So those are some, pretty powerful things. You obviously, like, again, exercise is good, getting good sleep, hanging around the right people. Maybe if you're depressed, maybe this is a time, maybe you don't like your job, right? Maybe if you feel this, maybe this is a good time to pause, kind of like those people did when they come in to see you. Like, why did you come here to see? Why now? Why are you seeing a financial advisor now? Well, something happened that led up to a point where they're like, okay, we got to get our shit together. Like, and then they come in and see you. So some people will wait 5 minutes, some will wait 5 years, some will make 50 years before they make that decision. Then they go in and see the advisor and they start trying to get their finances and help. But as far as, like, maybe this is a good time to stop and reflect and pause and look at aspects of your life. Look at your career. And because I know 74% of people listen to this podcast today don't like where they go to work. They don't. They're just going for a paycheck. So why? Why are you doing that? And then not being bummed out about it if you find something else out. Again, raising consciousness. Like, okay, I don't like where I'm at right now. I feel like I'm depressed. I'm doing the same old mundane thing over and over. But now if you look at it differently than you did a moment before, you can change it. You can say, well, I'm going to go do this now. This is what I'm really passionate about. But in the meantime, while I'm doing this on the side, because I have these commitments, I got a mortgage, I got a husband or kids, wife, or whatever I got going on, I'm going to really appreciate the job that I do have. And I'm going to start and all that I got from it, and even if you don't like it at all, you can like it and love it because it's giving you contrast to let you know more of what you do want. And it lets you know more of what you don't want. It's a very powerful tool, right? So there's a lot of stuff, man, when you're talking about depression and getting your mind right. And then we could go back into childhood, right? And 60% of 70, I'd say probably around 60% of people on average, if I'm figuring it out right, probably have some severe childhood trauma that they've been dragging around all these years. And you wouldn't even think about it. They wouldn't even, some of them don't even know they got it. They buried it so deep. And it's not just girls, it's guys too. And a lot of guys that are older, some of these rough, tough, redneck, old school, they're hanging on. They got some deep old baggage down in there. They got some deep, and they'll never let it out. And then all of a sudden, it's just down there. It's like a sliver just festering. It's an infection. It's lowering their vibrational frequency. That can lead to that. So they're a little unhappy. And that's when you get grumpy old men. Right? They're grumpy because maybe they never lived because they, or they have some childhood trauma. And I witnessed this multiple times with people. They, people like that, they get in a state and they're telling a story and all of a sudden they start crying and then, they're 70, 80 years old. They've never cried before in their whole life because they're tough. And they would get up and run off, freaking out. Can't believe they cried in front of another dude. They're embarrassed, but those are tears of healing. That's emotional detoxing. Literally, emotions leaving the body through tears, through a vibrational. And it's been measured. You can test people's tears, and there's that's coming out. So anyway, those are some. That's a big question, dude, because it leads into so many things. Look at just the physiological part of it, but then there's the mental and the emotional and the spiritual, and it's all kind of oh, there's just so much to talk about there.
I agree. I like the way you connected the where you at to like where you are type of thing, right? The self-reflection and self-awareness, I think it's almost like a epidemic here in this country. Like people just don't know, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And how is that affecting you? Right?
Yeah.
At the end, it's the same thing with money, right? Like
right.
you're trying to get somewhere and you've made all these decisions. Like, what did you do and why did you do them?
Mm-hmm.
I can see a lot of parallels as it relates to, physical and mental health. Like some of this stuff requires hard work, you know, in the form of figuring your stuff out and having conversations with yourself, or paying more in taxes today because it'll save you taxes tomorrow, right? Like doing some heavy lifting at the times that are most appropriate to you. But I think that's just to me the biggest issue of all is people just aren't aware of what it is that they're feeling or dealing with, or what can they do. And if you don't know where you are, how are you ever going to figure out where you're going?
Yeah.
It's very hard to connect
the way I look at it for somebody that's depressed is like, they're out in an ocean and they're flailing around. They're trying not to drown. And it's just like a struggle. And they're just like, why am I doing this? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because you want to get to land, you have kids, or you have family, or you want to have kids. You want to do something in your life. So you don't want to die. So for me, what happened was, and I went through depression. I remember every year in the wintertime for a week or 2 or 3, I'd get all bummed out, and then I didn't know why. And then I'm like, am I depressed? And I was just like, and then it would go away. But I just I never told anybody about it, right? So for me, what happened was when I went through my transformation physically, went through my health and learned all about health and detoxing nutrition, it was almost like, imagine being out in water and all of a sudden a life raft goes floating by. You're like, oh shit, I'm jumping on that thing. You get in the raft, it's like, whew, okay, now I can think. I'm not just sitting there flailing. So that's, I think, what the metaphor of this is, like these toxic, crappy foods, the fast foods. People are like, oh, I don't eat McDonald's, I eat at Subway. It's the same. The freaking same shit. Like you go to these fast food restaurants, most of them, I mean, maybe there's some out there and they can call in and then I'll promote them after I've seen their menu and their ingredients, where they get everything. But for the most part, this is all huge corporate stuff. I mean, if you see any television or an ad on TV telling you to go eat there, they're way too big, and I can guarantee you don't want to eat it. Because what happens is when you're eating foods that are denatured, it's so bad nowadays, sprayed with pesticides, sprayed with fungicides, herbicides, larvicides, chemical fertilizers, grown in soil that's 85% deficient, that's actually tilled, that destroys the soil microbiome. So even if there was nutrients in there, it's like they can't really transport into the root very well like they should, because those bacteria are whacked. You're eating those types of food, and then they heat pressurize them, pasteurize them, irradiate them in the form of like potatoes. Like they nuke them. And then you see foods like cereals, which makes me mad. It says enriched with vitamins. They're not enriched with vitamins. They're sprayed with chemicals. Okay. Vitamin A, like vitamin C is an example. They'll spray ascorbic acid on it. It's not a freaking vitamin. They call it a vitamin, but it's not. It's a synthetic, and it's going to lower your immune system. It's a poison. It's like, that's what it is. And it's so diabolical what's going on nowadays. It's like, it's almost better. Like this guy said, screw reading. If you're reading ingredients, you're not going to get healthy. Buy foods that don't have an ingredients list. I was like, wow, that's taking it to another level.
Yeah.
Eating lower on the food chain and making sure that this stuff is not sprayed and that it's not genetically modified, because it's going to screw you up. If you're constantly we have enough chemicals coming in as it is through the air and the water we breathe. And most people, I don't know about you, but did you grow up playing baseball with, did you have Under Armour and Nike Dry Fit the whole time?
No, it came around.
Okay, so you went through the transition. I remember the cotton stuff. It would get all heavy and you have to change it. And it was a pain in the ass. And then Under Armour and then Nike came out with Dry Fit. That stuff's freaking awesome. Like you feel like a superhero and an anti-wiki. Well, the problem is that it's made out of nylon. What's nylon made from? Base element, crude oil. And then they take thousands of chemicals to make that stuff. So after 1,000 washes, 97% of that Dry Fit stuff that I was wearing in baseball is still off-gassing and estrogen mimicking chemicals into my body, like feminizing me and leading me to hormone disruption, all this stuff, and depression. Freaking depression. So when it's coming in at all angles, Glade air freshener, you got your clothes that you're wearing, you think you're cool and you're wearing something. Nobody thinks about this. It's freaking everywhere, right? So our thing is like, let's give yourself a lifeboat if you're depressed. Let's look at your foods you're eating and get you cleaned up. That's it, pretty much, because we know you're polluted. We know it by the umbilical cord studies, and because every child being born today has close to 200 cancer-causing chemicals in them. Think about that. Like, I know right now, we could go get we could go get your children tested, and they're full of toxins, and it's just because the environment we're living in nowadays. Did you guys paint your kids' room ever?
Yeah.
And then how soon did they move into the room after you painted it?
Day or so, probably.
Right. So what happens is that paint is curing for 4.5 years, and it's off-gassing these chemicals. And we take 20,000 breaths a day. And you're not a bad dad. I mean, I give my kid Similac because the doctor told me to, and I had no idea that one of my kid was like throwing it up and throwing up. He's just sitting there telling me because he couldn't talk because he's like, one, Dad, I don't like this stuff. It's like blah, blah, and just kept giving it to him. And it's all toxic crap poison. The doctor told me to give it to him. So awareness is huge, dude. It's really huge. So there's a lot. So for me, if we can help people give them the awareness of these chemicals, we actually do. We have products, and we tell people to get your air clean, get your water cleaned. And then, we have products to help people clean that crap out of their system. And then it's like, whoop, it's like you're in a lifeboat. All of a sudden you have a little time, you start feeling better. And now you can start making better decisions because your brain's actually firing and working better. And you can just keep adding and adding and adding, and maybe start doing that self-reflection and, realize that everything in life is meaningless. It's only the meaning that you attach to it. Start looking at your current career as something that's got you to where you were, and you can be very thankful for it. And maybe in the relationship you're at, maybe it's time to have a really hard heart-to-heart conversation and say, hey, I want to build a castle with you, and I feel like you're not over here building, you're gone, and maybe we should come back. Let's build this castle together. You're really serious about this, and find out if they are. And if they are, great, move forward together and start communicating better. But if not, maybe it's time to go find somebody else, or maybe be alone for a while. You don't have to be with somebody. Like, that's a problem. If you're messed up and you're in a relationship and it's not working, why are you going to go get another one? You got to work on yourself first and take some time. Otherwise, you're going to go take your garbage into the next relationship, and it'll be something else that won't work. So anyway, we really want to help people with this, man, because it's a problem. It just bites my ass that thinking about the number one selling pharmaceutical drug is depression medication. There's so many people out there depressed, and they're not talking about it because who would want to tell people, yeah, I'm depressed, I take a bunch of pills for that? Nobody says that.
And they don't know why. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. So there's a lot there. There's chemical imbalance from the environment. There's, harmful organisms. I mean, we could talk about that. I mean, that could be lumped in there, but heavy metals, radiation, we've got viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, fungus. People don't realize that our immune systems have dropped down so low that so many people are getting taken over internally by harmful organisms. And it's just slow. Sometimes it's a slow deal and they don't know. And it could be from the environment, maybe the home, you picked up the mold. Maybe you picked up, your gut microbiome got out of whack because you had antibiotics, and then you end up getting candida, which is a yeast infection. And then that stuff starts hijacking your body. And, and maybe if you got heavy metal poisoning like I did, maybe because you eat a lot of fish. A lot of people don't know there's a lot of heavy metals in fish nowadays. So, or paint or whatever, you could pick it up from a lot of different things. So, but I guess the good news is that with awareness and some instruction and some guidance, there's a lot of hope. There's a whole lot of hope. And we've helped a lot of people, get out of these dark, dreary places, simply by just using common sense and working with them and helping them. So I just hope anybody out there that's listening, that's feeling with anxiety, depression, realizes that there is a lot you can do. And actually, and somebody to plug into is actually Mel Robbins. She goes pretty deep into anxiety. There's actually a technique called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you, like, let's say you're in bed and you can just barely drag your ass out of bed because you're so depressed. There's science behind it. She didn't know the science when she did it, but if you count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then go, there's something magic about
You
that.
got to do it out loud too. It's more efficient that way.
Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Though.
Yeah. So when I have people that have anxiety or depression, we use that as part of the toolkit. And I have them study Mel a little bit, and just it gives them hope. They're like, oh, I'm not the only one. Oh, it's other people are doing it. Wow, this tool could work. It helps me. Even if it helps you 50%, that's freaking huge.
Yeah.
Right. So we like to make it simple in the beginning, because I talked about a whole bunch of stuff just to kind of throw a big umbrella over that. But there's a lot people can do, and if they're depressed, then they shouldn't. Don't be, just find somebody that can help you. That's number one. Get some help. Don't be a lone ranger.
Love it.
Awesome.
Cool.
So Scott, I know we're winding down our time here and everything. Was there anything else that you wanted to chat about on the health side of things, or yeah, we could probably go like all.
Yeah, I feel like we've unpacked a can of worms here. No, that was great. I think your condensed version of like how connected everything is just so, it's unknown to most people, right? And most people don't go to school and learn what you've learned, or go to school and learn what I've learned, and put into practice in everyday life things that are this important. Like, what else is there outside of like your health and your wealth and family and these things? Like,
Right.
They are so vitally connected. And yeah, I mean, to anyone listening, whatever Tim just said as it relates to your health and your mental well-being, your body, like all of those isms carry over into your finances as well. And that's why we lead with education. Like, you got to uncover what's potential out there, and like what you can and can't do, and then learn what applies to your scenario. And you can't do that alone, right? Because you're going to spend your whole life looking into areas that probably don't relate to the thing you're actually dealing with. Right? Like, how many times has someone walked in your office or talked to you and you've been like, well, actually the reason is this, and it took you multiple steps to get there. It's amazing what people don't know, and they don't know things. And it's still amazing that, too many of us just we wake up and we go through the motions. We don't take a second to look through what's happening and why are we doing things, and is there a different way? And no, I love that, man. I'm going to take that section of this conversation away and apply some very meaningful things. That was good stuff.
And for you business people out there listening, one of my buddies who he got his master's at Harvard. Not that that's a big deal, but he said that when he coaches small, medium-sized business owners, and they're always working in the business all the time, and they don't spend time working on the business, getting back, getting out of it, working on that 30,000-foot view. So he has them do, when he coaches them, a CEO day once a month, where best thing to do, he said, is get out of the house, go to the beach, whatever, maybe you go for the weekend, but one day you're there and you just all day long, you're planning out your business and looking at things. How could I change this? How could I improve that? Maybe you're looking at marketing, maybe you're looking at public relations, or research and development, or manufacturing, or whatever relates to your business, right? And that's a pretty powerful thing to schedule that stuff. So they would schedule them out, and once a month, just go work on you, go work on your business. That's what it was. So it wasn't just the business; it was like a business and a you day, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And that monthly reflection is pretty powerful. In fact, it's reminding me of a story. I can't remember what it was. I think it might be in a Dale Carnegie book, but remember this? I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was this guy, and he started this company and worked his way up to the president of the company, like from, literally from the shipping department. And he said the most valuable thing that he ever did was he would go through his conversations every Saturday night after dinner. He would go to his study, and he would go back through all the conversations he had with people during the week, and he would reflect on them, and what I do right, what I do wrong, and what can I do better next time. And he did this year after year after year after year. And after a while, he stopped doing things that were wrong, and he became very good at building relationships, right? Because of the reflection. It's a little bit different topic, but that's another example of how important it is to stop, take a step back, take a look at where you're at, where you're going. And otherwise, you're just kind of, you either have a plan or you're going to be part of someone else's plan. Like Jim Rohn said, what do you think other people have planned for you? Not much.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly. Hey, Enrichers, I want to thank you again for joining us for another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. And make sure to go to our website for all of our previous guests, like Scott Airey of Fiat Wealth Management. And Scott, thank you again so much for joining us on the Health and Wealth Podcast. We really appreciated it. You can go to our website at www.thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com, and then also make sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So for my fantastic co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James, I am Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group, an Epic Services company, wishing you all a very wonderful and abundant day. And until next time, we will see you on the Health and Wealth Podcast. Scott, thank you again so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys.
Hey, Enrichers, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.